Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stacey preview show. We've got a local derby this week. It's Doncaster Rovers at the Keepmoat Stadium. We've got Dan to join us. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thank you for having me on.
No worries, no worries. Good to talk about football. Just something I've sort of asked every guest so far this season, because obviously we missed out last year. But how's it being back at the Keepmoat and seeing your lads week in, week out? How are you sort of finding that?
It's okay. It could be better. The form's not been great, but you know what? Football's not always about the 90 minutes. Sometimes it's about seeing people that you've not seen in ages, spending time with a family. So yeah, there's much more around the Saturday feeling than the 90 minutes, which is good for us Donny fans at the minute.
Yeah, let's talk about that then. Obviously, 3 wins in 16. What's gone wrong? Because the summer recruitment looked pretty strong from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think we're still missing key players. I think we're too light in the midfield. I think we're struggling in the final third as well. But yeah, it's a rebuilding season. The board and Richie said it at the start of the season that we're not expecting to be pulling up any trees in the league, and that's definitely shown. From bits that I've seen, we've not been consistently good, but we've not been, in my opinion, poor enough to be down where we are. Obviously, the table doesn't lie 16 games in, so we are there for a reason. It's because we're not scoring enough goals. We're conceding too many. But I think it's maybe inexperience. We've got quite a young team, and individual errors in key moments of games that are just absolutely killing us. If you take Ipswich and Charlton out of the equation, we've been in pretty much every game. Those 2 games, I think we just hit them 2 teams at the wrong time. 2 very good teams, and they showed it on the day against us and battered us 6-0 and 4-0. Like.
And is there start of some pressure going on Richie Wellens? Then obviously he was a good manager. Obviously did well at Salford, not Salford, Swindon. Didn't do so well at Salford. Came in with high expectations, didn't he? Really, the football he played. Has that sort of been delivered, or is there some pressure on his shoulders?
I don't think the football's been delivered that we were expecting. We were expecting kind of free-flowing, passing, pressing football. We've seen it in spells, like I say, but not consistently enough. But I'm on the side of the fence where I think he needs time. I think he needs a January transfer window to bring in a few more recruits, like I say, that midfielder who can just shore it up in the centre of the park. We've got good ball-playing midfielders, but nobody who can get stuck in and do like that. The dirty work in there, yeah. And I think in League One you need that. And we're also relying on Thiago Chakura, an 18-year-old from Watford, not played professional football in his career yet. We're relying on him to score goals, so I think we need a goal scorer. There has been an injury crisis, but you get that across every team in the AFL. If you lose a couple of players, you need to have those kind of contingency players who are ready to step in. We've not got that at the minute. So yeah, there is a bit of pressure from certain areas of the fan base that are saying Richie out. I think he needs a little bit of time, and you see it with your likes of Paul Warne at Rotherham. He's been given time there, and they're a very, very good team. You look at Coleman at Accrington Stanley, they're always punching above the weight. I think give a manager time. I know football's a results game, so it's got to turn around quickly, and I think Richie's honest enough to know that we need to get wins for him to still be in a job. I hope we do. Really do. But I think if we're in a similar situation this time next year, I think that's the time where we need to be looking at moving on.
Do you think then the problem's sort of more than Richie Wellens, because the club have been on a bit of a downfall since January last year? You know, you were in the automatics alongside us sort of back end of 2020, and then all of a sudden it sort of fell down to your promotion charge. I think you came 14th last year in the table. And does it come from more leaving the football club? Is that what do you think been the cause of the downslide?
I think that's a contributing factor, yeah, definitely. We just absolutely imploded last season. I think just before Christmas we had 3 games in hand. We were 1 point away from top spot, and like I say, we finished 14th. We couldn't buy a win the back end of last season. But I think it might start even before Darren Moore. I mean, Grant McCann was the manager before he left to Hull. The squad got absolutely decimated. It was asking for loyalty and trying to get players signing on contracts, and things didn't work out, and we ended up with a threadbare squad. Then he left to Hull City. Darren Moore came in and had to rebuild from scratch on a relatively small budget, I believe. He did well. He did very well in his first season. I believe his first season was the curtailed season. We were just outside of playoffs. And then in his second season, we relied on loans far too much. I think when you rely on loans, you're not developing any of your own assets. And I think that philosophy over the last 2 or 3 seasons is now catching up with us, where we've been rebuilding every season, and it's not a good philosophy to have. It's okay to have 2 or 3 loans to kind of enhance a squad, but to rely on those loans to actually be the squad, I think that's where we've fallen down. And unfortunately for Richie, he's having to pick the pieces up at the minute. But I think 2 big losses are John Marquis and Ben Whiteman, not just the managers that have left. Decent managers, don't get me wrong, in their own right. And they've gone on to do okay at their other clubs. I think Darren Moore's under a bit of pressure at Sheffield Wednesday. I think Grant McCann's probably under a bit of pressure at Hull at the minute as well. So as a fan who's seen them walk away from the club, it's quite nice to see them under pressure elsewhere. But at the same time, they were okay for Donny. But yeah, we've never replaced John Marquis up front, and we've never replaced Ben Whiteman. He was a complete midfielder. I think that's where we're struggling as well.
Let's try and cheer you up a little bit then. You've sort of had the international break over the last couple of weeks, and also the FA Cup. Obviously, you beat Scunthorpe, which is, we sort of discussed before we came on, never really a bad thing to beat Scunny. But
no,
is the cup going to sort of provide you as a good distraction, because you've got Mansfield in the next round, which is sort of another favourable tie? Is that going to be a sort of a distraction from your league form, do you think?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that the 2 wins over Scunny has given Richie something to think about in terms of squad selection. In the Papa John's Trophy Tuesday night, there were a lot of youngsters who played in that, and they did themselves justice. We went 3-0 up, and then started swapping and changing it, and we kind of fell to pieces and almost threw the game away, but we managed to win 3-2. But yeah, the lads have stepped in and done well, so hopefully that gives Richie a bit of a selection headache, and maybe some of the fringe players are now in his peripherals for starting is on about an injury crisis. Why not give these lads a chance? Like I said earlier, you want to develop your own assets, and it's only a good thing if the youngsters are good enough, get them in. But yeah, a couple of wins, hopefully it's done well for the confidence. Like we say, with 3 wins in 16 games in the league, that's done nothing for the squad's confidence, surely. But yeah, progression in cups is always good.
And if you could beat Stags, that would be very much appreciated from our fan base.
Now, yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, they did well against Sunderland.
Yeah, they're not a bad side. Just we don't really like Stags. There's quite a lot of football teams around our sort of area, isn't there? You've got your Sheffield United, Wednesday, Grimsby, Scunthorpe, Donny. Let's talk about your home form then, because it seems to be pretty good compared to your away form. You've beaten some fairly decent sized Cheltenham. You beat at home. MK Dons you beat at home, which was quite impressive. Is that something that's going to keep you up, do you think?
I hope so. I think we need to start picking points up away from home as well, though. Definitely. I think it's nice to have home comforts. We just need to take that mentality that we've got at home, where we seem to be a little bit more solid at the back. I think we've scored 8 goals, conceded 8 goals at home. So it's not too bad when you look at as away form. I think we've scored 3 and conceded 21. So away from home, it just seems like we forget how to do anything of a footballing standard. Whereas at home, we just seem to be a little bit more comfortable. So I don't know if that's the inexperience of the squad that we've got, where they're just kind of struggling to manage games away from home, maybe a little bit overawed. I mean, we've had some big games away from home, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, places like that. I don't know if it's game management or what. So yeah, hopefully the home form, they can kind of capture that and take it away from home. But yeah, it gives me a little bit of confidence coming into this game on Saturday, being at the Keith Mills Stadium.
Well, you picked up your first away point of the season last time in the league, which feels like a month ago, really, doesn't it? That game against Crewe, where the bottom 2 teams were dogging it out. How did that sort of game fold? Were you on top of Crewe, or was the point probably justified?
From what I've heard, the first half Crewe played fairly well, but we matched them, and then the second half was nothing. It was literally 2 teams that looked like they were going down, according to the reports that I've had. So yeah, I'd say a draw is a fair result. Apparently, we were time wasting for the last 10 minutes, which I don't like to see when you're going bottom of the table, you wanted to win, but I think maybe a little bit of fear from not having an away point. They're just wanting to not lose that 1 point that they had. So I can kind of understand it.
And now we're sort of a little bit away from the summer window as well. Which recruit have you most been impressed with? Because it was quite a busy period, wasn't it, for Donny over the summer transfer window?
Yeah, I think 15 players in, I think it was. But for me, Tommy Rowe, coming back from Bristol City, he's far too good for League One. It frustrates me that we're playing him so far back. I'd like to see him further up the pitch. I think he's more creative and he offers a little bit more going forward. But he's slotted in at left back very, very well. And yeah, he's our best player this season by far.
And how's Ben Close been doing? Because he was like the high profile signing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he started off okay. I think, like I say, the midfield's been getting overrun a little bit early on in the season. And he's picked up an injury. So I think he's kind of available for selection this Saturday, but he's missed the last 4 or 5 games, I think. So yeah, he started off well, but that injury might have just set him back a little bit.
And is there anybody else that Lincoln fans should be looking out for in the LNER derby?
Yeah, probably Pontus Dahlberg, the keeper. He's kept us in a number of games this season. Very, very good shot stopper. If you get a penalty, I put money on him saving it. He's saved so many penalties this season already. But yeah, he's a decent keeper. Jordi Hiwula on the left, if he's up for it, is very tricky. But for me, sometimes he tries to do that one extra step over, which takes it a little bit too far. But yeah, if he kind of reins it in a little bit, it can terrorise defenders at this level for sure.
Well, I've seen Donny do quite well when it comes to Lincoln City penalties. Anyway, last year he saved 2 in that game at Sincil Bank.
Yeah.
I just really want to get your thoughts on Lincoln City so far this year. Obviously, you might not have seen so much of us, but from where we were last year to where we are now, are you sort of been impressed, or are you a bit worried about where we are at the moment?
I won't say that I'm worried about where you are. I think you'll be fine this season. I did expect you guys to be kind of a little bit higher up the table. Is it 15th at the minute?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. So safe mid-table, but it's such a tough division at the minute. Well, it depends which way you look at it. Is it a poor division where everybody's beating everybody, or is it a really tough division where there's enough quality where everybody's beating everybody? I think I'd go for the latter. I mean, there's some huge teams in this league this season. So I think for anybody to be fighting for top 6 again, you've got to have a big budget, a big fan base, and just I think you've got to be set up ready for Championship football. And I think probably mid-table for Lincoln would be an expectation for me this season. Maybe between around 10th.
Well, fingers crossed. Let's get on to Saturday then. How are we expecting Donny to line up and play? Are they going to come out at Lincoln and try and rattle the cage early on, or do you think they'll take a point?
I think, like we said, with the home form being better, I think we have taken games to teams at the Keepmoat. So I expect us to be set up in the usual 4-3-3 formation. Richie seems to like that. We go with a high press, but sometimes that starts to die off around 60-70 minutes, and I don't know if that's because we've got such a small squad that they're struggling to maintain that high intensity. But yeah, if we can hit early like we did against Cheltenham, get 1 or 2 goals, and then we've got something to hold on to. But I think it's going to be a tight game. I'm going with a 2-1 Donny, but it's not a confident 2-1.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on, Dan. Anything you'd like to plug? Obviously, I know you've got a YouTube channel that you put quite a lot of time into as well.
Yeah. 18Dapper on YouTube. There's match previews, match day vlogs. I've just done an interview with Richie Wellens as well. I had half an hour with him yesterday, which was nice. Try to get a bit of an insight into the club and kind of what's going forward. So yeah, if anybody wants to head over there and subscribe, that'd be great.
Lovely. Make sure you go and subscribe to 18Dapper on YouTube. Really good content creator. Anyway, Dan, thanks for coming on again. I'm sure we'll sort of see you later on in the season as well. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.